Hi, it's Stacy with Bridges 52.7. I'm going to take a few minutes to unpack the big, bold, beautiful journey. I'm going to warn you right now, there will be spoilers. The whole thing will probably be kind of a spoiler, but I don't know. I don't know if this spoiled it for me or if I really think I'll probably end up seeing this one again because it's just one of those that like it's deep and I liked it, but I feel like I will like it more the next time through. And it's one that the more I have kind of looked at my notes and thought about it, and like I keep liking it more and more and more because it's rich. And I'm realizing that everything in this movie was actually really intentional and had so much meaning. And so for me, I kind of geek out on this stuff. It's really been fun to think about it deeper. So I'm hoping that rather than spoil this for somebody, this actually helps you not only enjoy the movie better, but actually will help take you deeper in your own life and in your faith because of this discussion. So that being said, let's dive in. Let me give you a little bit of an overview of the movie, and then we're going to, I'm going to tackle a few just kind of touch points, but I really want to bring the whole thing around and explain something that I didn't really see until I was looking at my notes, like the cohesiveness of the message in some of this and how I actually think it's very much fits in with the gospel message. So, okay. First off, you've got these two people and the whole thing starts with them. They're trying to go to a wedding and the cars don't work. And so they have to rent a car to get there. And the car rental agency is hysterical. I will warn you too, the F-bomb is all over. Other than that, it's a really sweet, really innocent movie. But I don't understand why they had so much of the F-bomb. To me, it was jarring and it really took away. That was the one thing I thought really took away from the sweetness of the movie. But anyways, that's my opinion. But so they go to this thing, and I'm going to say that the whole movie starts with this thing about doors, and that is a huge thing of the movie. It really comes down to doors, and I'll bring that in at the end. But there's this funny moment where he can't get in and they warn him, like, you have to get the timing just right. Doors they're really tricky. They don't work if you don't do it this way and whatever. Like there's a whole, he just thinks it's a door, but it's not just a door. It's like complicated. And doors, to move forward in things, I think they're making a huge point about sometimes you have to have the right timing for the door to work. Sometimes you have to have the right person on the other side or open it up or whatever it may be. But there are combinations and things to help unlock moving forward into your future or into the next room or whatever it may be. So they're kind of really making a point about this. Anyway, so he gets there and they won't let him, they basically insist that he gets the GPS. It's a really old model car. And they're like, well, he's like, I'll just use my phone. No, you want the GPS. And they really insist, like, things can happen with your phone. It can crap out on you. You're going to need the GPS. So he's like, fine, give me the GPS. And of course, everything goes haywire and he needs the GPS. So, and the same thing's happening with her. But it's an interesting thing because to me, that took me straight to like Proverbs where it talks about don't trust in your own understanding. Ask the Lord, seek the Lord, let him make your path straight, right? Not your own understanding. And I think there's a good question in this movie about what is it that you're trusting to guide you? Is it your own resources, your own understanding, or are you trusting in something that is maybe beyond your understanding? I mean, this GPS thing is way beyond their understanding, and yet it's so simple. It seems so backwards, and yet it is taking them forwards in a way, which I think is such, again, an interesting choice. It's not some futuristic thing. It's actually like almost like an analog kind of system, but yet it is able to take them back into the past for healing so they can go forward into their future. And anyway, so super interesting because I think, again, you could argue that the Bible, Jesus, all these things that even just ancient wisdom, like so often we go back to these old things. Everything I need to know I learned in kindergarten, right? Like we go back to the past for the lessons that we need to move forward so often. So I just find it very interesting. I would say this whole movie is like an inner healing. If you're familiar with some of the different inner healing modalities, this is like if you were going to go to an inner healing session with someone, but then make a way to visualize the whole journey. That's kind of what this movie was. And I thought it was really interesting in that. And it's about two people going on an inner healing journey together that kind of get thrown together because of this magical GPS. So there's a great thing about how there's moments of truth and performance, which totally reminded me of C.S. Lewis talking about how we put on Christ and like little kids pretend to wear their mother's clothes and father's clothes. even though they don't fit into him yet, but there's a purpose in that you're practicing, you're learning until you do fit. And I think the Bible talks about like, put on Christ, learn to be holy as I'm holy. And he's like, that's ridiculous because we're not yet, but this is how we get there, is we keep pretending to be things even that we're not, until it becomes truth. And they talk about some of that process. That's kind of a big message of the movie, which I thought was super interesting. There's also a thing about saying something like you mean it and repeating it until it becomes true, but there's power in our declarations and what we say. So that's hinted at in the movie. And I'm just highlighting a few things that you'll catch, and hopefully this will make them land maybe a little deeper. And there's some really sweet moments about understanding why things that each of them maybe had a hard time about, and especially him, there were some things his parents would always tell him how special he was, and it really bothered him, because he felt like it set him up for disappointment and hurt and things. So, but yet he has a moment to start to get some clarity on where that came from, why his parents said that, why they thought that was a good thing to tell him, how they thought they were protecting him in some ways. And then at the end of the day, he's not only able to forgive his parents for this thing that kind of hurt him, that he resented, but he actually agrees with them and starts telling his own child self the same thing because he gets it now. And because now it has a different meaning. Now that he understands all of it, he comes at it from a different perspective. So I just think there's some real grace in that sometimes when we walk in someone else's shoes and we understand that they were doing the best they could and we know why they did what they did, sometimes we go, yeah, you made the best choice given the tools, the resources, the circumstances you were in. So I just think there was a real sweet grace and healing and forgiveness in this. So let's go back. Let's look at the title for just a minute. So those are just a few touch points of things that I think still really point to some biblical motifs. But the Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey, I read a critic saying like, there's nothing big or bold or beautiful about this. And I was like, it is hard because this is an inner healing journey. And to me, that is what they are saying, that the biggest, most bold thing you can do, the biggest journey you can take is to actually get healthy, to go back to the past, revisit those points of pain, get healing from them so that you can move forward, and to risk being hurt again by being vulnerable with someone else and allowing yourself to give and experience and receive love. Like that is the big, bold, beautiful journey. And it's hard because if you're thinking the big journey is, the bold journey is going to be like Fast and Furious, like some big, we're so full of these big over the top action movies and stuff that this could seem kind of plain, but yet isn't that the biggest, hardest? We can go fight wars all day long, but to actually show up and get healing for your own self is really hard. And not that fighting wars is easy. I'm just saying it's very, sometimes it's a lot easier to go put yourself, do these big action kinds of things, take physical risks, but the emotional risks are so much more scary and hard to do. So I think they're really making a point here about what is the big, bold, beautiful journey that you will take in your life, and that it's about what's inside, not about outside. It's about getting healthy, getting healed, having forgiveness for the past, and then being able to risk for the future with somebody, being able to risk being disappointed or hurt or anything. Vulnerability is a hard thing. So let's wrap this all together. The big, bold, beautiful journey. It starts out with doors. Doors are tricky. All these things about doors. They learn, they fall in love. They have to make decisions about whether or not they're going to risk. I mean, they basically say we should just end this now before we hurt each other because they don't want to get hurt again, right? So they've decided to risk it all. But at the end, they're singing this song, or playing this song, Let My Love Open the Door. And it's this whole thing about that is the thing that opens doors, is love. And yet to find love, there's a timing to it. I mean, if you go back to that first scene, I think there's this whole thing about timing and cooperation and things that opens doors. But what I was reminded of is that the Lord says that he stands at the door and knocks, and that his love is the one perfect love that never disappoints, never hurts, never wounds us, that he loves fully and perfectly and completely, no matter how much we do to crucify him in the process. He can still say, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing, and love us anyways. He's the father of the prodigal son who is waiting, no matter what his son did, dying to welcome him back and to reestablish him and his family as his son. So, I just think it's a really neat thing to kind of look at this movie and all that it takes and all the risk. And then at the end of the day, be reminded that the love that we're ultimately searching for, we experience on earth in all kinds of means. But actually the source of that love is the Lord, and that he is always willing, standing there waiting, hoping that we will open the door and let his love open up all the things in our hearts so that we can move forward in health and forgiveness and healing and growth and vulnerability. So anyways, okay, that's what I got today. Would love to hear thoughts and comments on this. Did you like the movie? Did you not? Did it speak to you? Would be so curious to hear. Anyways, but my hope and prayer is that this takes you deeper, not only just to have a fun movie discussion, but actually really takes you deeper with the Lord. So, all right.